Hey guys, welcome back to StatChat Sports. We're back talking Premier League. I've got Taylor on the line. Taylor, plenty to talk about today, mate.
Oh, we got heaps to talk about. Plenty of interesting fixtures, mainly in the relegation battle. We've seen a few good games happen there. Top of the table is a little bit happening. Yeah, we got lots to talk about.
We'll start at the top as always. So far, only Liverpool have played. City are yet to play, but we'll get to them. Liverpool won 2-0 to Brighton. Yeah, again. Maybe second week in a row, not a typical Liverpool performance.
Yeah, I feel like we talk about this a fair bit. Maybe Liverpool not super convincing at the moment. Getting the job done, which is obviously a trademark of a good team. You're not always going to play good, but as long as you can get the 3 points on your day, then you're not going to be too mad. But yeah, a nice goal from Luis Diaz, put himself on the line, showed a lot of grit. And yeah, with the penalty finishing the result off, it's they'll walk away 3 points. No, maybe an injury cloud for Salah there. But yeah, not too much damage done, hopefully, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, plenty of chances for Liverpool, probably more so than last week's game against West Ham, but they were actually outpossessed by Brighton, which I can't think, besides maybe Man City or Chelsea, the last time a team has outpossessed Liverpool in a game before.
Oh yeah, it's not very often that happens at all. According to WhoScored.com, Brighton do go at about just under 57% in the Premier League. So it's up there for what you'd consider to be a middle to bottom of the table teams. So not that the writing was on the wall at all, but it's they do like to play a bit of a possession based game, which is probably something different to what we've seen from Brighton in the past years.
Yeah, even if Liverpool come across a team that tend to play that style football, Liverpool is just so dominant on the ball anyway that they just seem to have more possession. It's just as simple as that. But that wasn't the case. So it's quite surprising when I actually saw that, because watching the game, you could sort of tell that they weren't in as much control as normal. But I certainly wouldn't have had it at 58% possession. That's extremely unheard of for a Liverpool game. And it's something I don't think I think Klopp will give a stern word to the boys, because you don't want that.
Yeah, it's something that Liverpool obviously aren't used to. They don't go into a game, especially against a team like Brighton, and say, we can give them the lion's share of possession. That's not the brief that they want to meet. Of course, Liverpool are big on their counter attack, but that's not the way they set up their game to play. I mean, there's 11 world-class players in that team. You don't set up a team with that kind of talent to hit on the counter attack. They're naturally going to be ball dominant against these lower teams, but yeah, this just seems to be the outlier.
Certainly. Nonetheless, they keep the pressure on City at the top of the table. They're 3 points behind. City are yet to play at the time of this recording. We're recording this on Monday night. They'll play Crystal Palace away to Selhurst Park. I suppose City have won their last 3 games at Selhurst Park, but there's a little bit of a trend on the fourth game.
Yeah, so City, it's somewhat their bogey team, Crystal Palace. Is it loss draw in the third game? In the fourth game of that of that series there. They just seem to stumble.
Yeah.
They get their
longest win streak is 3 at Selhurst Park, and twice it's ended in defeat, and once it's ended in a 0-0 draw. Yeah. So yeah, for all your superstitious people out there, it's not a fixture a City supporter could potentially be excited to come up against. But I mean, yes, Crystal Palace do seem to be their bit of a bogey team. Like they've done it before, to them beating them at the Emirates, not the Emirates, sorry, the Etihad, and they beat them again there this year in the reverse fixture. So they're looking to do the double over them, which would be the first time that that's happened since the 1987 and 88 season. So a long time coming for them.
Oh, it'd be a huge result, especially for Palace. I mean, they're not really in any sort of battle, but I mean, you take points off City. You're taking 6 points off City in a calendar year or in a season, and you're laughing. 100%. They'd be all about it. But I mean, it's a City team that, I mean, yeah, they've been good for year upon year, but they're looking pretty good at the moment. I mean, my money would be on City to buck the trend. I think most people's money probably would be, but I'm sure they'd love a certain Sadio Mane to slot into that team and continue his Palace streak. But yeah, unfortunately, they don't have that kind of weaponry.
Do you think the fact that Liverpool played first and that they've won adds a little bit of extra pressure for City?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I mean, it puts them equal on games, but the fact, it's still seen as in the game week. Yeah, Liverpool have already played their game. City yet to play. I think, they'll look at it and they'll think, Liverpool won last time out. Coming up against a bogey team of sorts in Palace. Yeah, they'll definitely have to look at it and think, well, so we need a win here. I mean, what team doesn't think we need a win here? But it's crucial on the back of Liverpool getting their win.
And just quickly, if City do win, then that tips the scale and puts the pressure back on Liverpool, who play their catch-up game midweek, Thursday night for us. Sorry, Thursday morning, I think it is. They play Arsenal, and that will balance the games played between the two sides. That's a must-win, obviously, if City win to keep the gap, but it's not going to be easy against Arsenal.
Oh no, it's looms is a bit of a danger game, especially being at the Emirates. I'm just looking at this at the form ladder before. Liverpool and Arsenal both won. I think Liverpool won their last 7 or 8 in the league. Not off the top of my head, probably, but Arsenal have hit 5 in a row. So 2 form teams. It's a tough one to call because Liverpool not playing their best, Arsenal probably being a little more clinical. It's City will love that one. I'd love to, if they get the win tonight, I think they'll sit pretty and think that there's definitely points that Liverpool can drop there.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll have to keep a close tabs on that one, because that could definitely swing things either way in the title race. So, but on the other end of the spectrum, in the relegation zone, 2 out of the 3 teams lost this week. Not all 3. So Burnley lost again for the second time in a row. Brentford, at the hands of Brentford on their side, I suppose. 2 wins in 2 from Brentford, and that pretty much removes them out of the relegation battle, I'd say.
Yeah, their main man, Ivan Toney's done it again. So I think he scored their last 5 goals. Is that? I think he scored all 3 last week.
Yeah.
Both of them this week. It just shows that he's just crucial. He is that team. It sucks to say, but him and Ericsson, I think he had the assist on the first goal. It was a nice little cross there for Tony to meet for 1-0. But I think with those 2, they've pretty much steered themselves. I wouldn't say fully clear, but
just about.
They're in a very good position. Yeah.
Good. We'll come back to the Watford one, but Leeds won a huge game for them. Massive.
Oh, that was for a team. A game full of. With 2 proper relegation candidates. That was a bloody good game.
Mm.
It had there was a penalty drum, 3 hit posts, I think. Is it 3?
Yeah, there was a few.
Yeah, and there was the 2 stoppage time goals, and you could just see at the final siren what it really meant to the Leeds supporters there at Ellen Road. That was just
The place was rocking honestly, after that second goal.
I had goosebumps watching that. I thought, bloody hell, like this is. I mean, what are we? We're 9 or 10 games away from the end, something like that, roughly. But it had the makings of like they're just sewn up survival on the last day of the year. It was just absolute scenes. Yeah, mental.
It had that vibe, certainly, but I mean, I wouldn't necessarily take them directly out the relegation battle just yet, but that game is huge in the grand scheme of things for them. But nevertheless, they further condemned Norwich. I think it's all but confirmed they're basically going to be in the championship next year. They're just too far behind the other 2 ahead of them.
Yeah, and they're dropping games to other relegation candidates. You can't be expected to grab points after losing close games like that to teams that you should be challenging. So, I mean, they're going to have to really pull something out. But, I mean, the January transfer window's gone. I mean, Newcastle made their move, obviously with a bit more cash. But, yeah, I think it's been and gone for them. Yeah, it'll be championship.
It's a shame. It's now twice they've come up and gone straight back down in recent years. So, I don't know. They just can't seem to quite knock it in the Premier League.
I don't know. I mean, I admittedly don't watch a hell of a lot of the championship. I keep tabs, but I don't watch. But a lot of people say it's the hardest thing to come straight back up. It's hard to really get back on the horse after going down and getting straight back up. And Norwich have done it twice in a row, but just can't seem to find that mix that's going to keep them there. And it's a shame because they've got a couple of decent players in that team. It's just not working out for them.
Oh well, who knows? Maybe a 3-peat. Maybe they'll go down and come straight back up again next year. So
and then go back down.
Yeah, and then go back down the year after. Yeah, it's just a constant for them. So that's good. Just returning back to the Watford game. Their win against Everton, fellow relegation battlers, puts Watford up to 18th, equal points with Everton. Did you catch any of that one?
Was that against Southampton, I think?
Oh, was it?
Southampton, I think.
Oh, sorry. You're correct. Yeah.
I watched the Watford game. I have no idea what Southampton were doing there.
Comical defending.
Just farting around with the ball. Oh, that was awful. I mean, they got out by the skin of their teeth at one point and then put themselves straight back in it. I mean, you make one mistake, just get the ball out. And they still wanted to stuff around with the ball. Just get it out. That's number one rule. If you're in trouble, just boot it out, clear it. Doesn't matter. Regroup.
Yeah.
Just you're not bloody Giorgio Chiellini you're not Virgil van Dijk trying to play your way out of the back. You're not. I mean, you're not Joel Matip. You saw what he did.
Yeah.
you're not pinging balls halfway across the pitch. You just get rid of it, and it was just amateur. So, I mean, Southampton deserved to lose that with that kind of play, but yeah, fair play to Watford.
Yeah, if you're going to be stuffing around with it like that, you're just inviting the pressure. And credit to Watford, they capitalised on it and took it. So, yeah, as mentioned, they move up to 18th on 22 points, equal with Everton. Speaking of Everton, they lost again.
Again,
at
the hands of ex-Liverpool player, boyhood fan, Connor Cody. I'm sure he would have found that one particularly sweet. I mean, gets them the 3 points, consigns Everton to what are they, 17th now?
They're 17th now, yeah.
they're right above there. And I mean, looking at their upcoming fixtures, are they? What's your opinion? Do you think they're going down?
I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things because when you look at Everton as a club, they're a type of club that you just don't even think relegation isn't even the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Everton. You know, at present, or maybe at the start of the season, you'd think maybe mid-table, you know, pushing for maybe a conference or a Europa League spot. You don't have them in the discussion for relegation at all. So this is definitely uncharted territory for them. My dad's an Everton supporter, and he's always said to me all throughout the whole season, he says, I don't think they're going to get relegated. And I'd tend to agree with him. But we're getting towards the tail end of the season now, and they're not looking pretty. So I even think in his mind, it's maybe in the back of it. And if their next two fixtures don't go their way, then you've really got to throw them in the mix because after these next two, which are Newcastle and Watford, both winnable games, you would say. Maybe a point against Newcastle, but they have to take 3 against Watford, definitely. Especially being on the same amount of points as them. But then after that, you've got their remaining games. So West Ham, United, Palace, Liverpool, Chelsea, Leicester City, Brentford, and Arsenal. And besides, maybe you could maybe Brentford, and you could maybe make an argument for Palace and Leicester. I don't see them getting points against the other teams I've just named. So they're not picking up points against Newcastle and Watford. There's very few points up for grabs in their last, 6, 7 games. So that to me is why they're there. So it all comes down to those last two. So for those next two. But yeah, look, maybe in a couple of weeks, once those 2 games have played, we can sit here and maybe have a slightly different discussion about it. But currently, they're in trouble.
Yeah. What's the magic number that teams usually need to get? Is it kind of like the mid-30s?
It's about the mid-30s. Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, they need 13 points. They've got 12 games to go. Mm-hmm. I'd say I think they'll beat Watford. Mm-hmm. I think they'll lose to Newcastle. So there's 3. I think you'd be lucky to get them 3 or 4 out of the other fixtures that you listed. They may get a win and a draw against the teams. So then they need to find 5 more somewhere else.
Yeah.
Roughly. That's a hard ask. They're just losing to too many other candidates not for the drop, but, you know, in those bottom 6 teams. They're just getting pushed under and under and under by those teams. And one of the only teams who have not been relegated before. And geez, I mean, they're pretty damn close. Looking at that run of games, I think they might. I just don't. There is just too much talent in that team. But I mean, how many times can we say it and then just not do anything? It feels like we just keep saying they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out. They got a decent manager in Lampard, but at some point it's going to, I mean, maybe they're just not going to.
I'd probably put it on the same sort of spectrum as when Leicester won the league. But in terms of relegation, Leicester won the league. Mm-hmm. No one expected that at all.
Yeah.
And if Everton go down, that's something no one would have tipped at the start of the season. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I wonder what the odds. I think Leicester were 5,000 to 1 to win the league.
Yeah.
Wonder what Everton were paying for the drop.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to look back at that.
I'd be interested to see if anyone threw anything on it.
I'm sure you'd get some bitter Liverpool supporters that would have.
Yeah, that's true. My old man and I would, not so much these days, but we would typically put a bet on at the start of the season, just like $100 bet or something like that. That one team would finish above the other, and I'm always getting the cash at the end of the year. But good thing he didn't make one this year. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh yeah. He'd be looking pretty silly now, wouldn't he?
He'd be looking very silly. We'll move on from there. I'm sure Everton supporters and fellow relegation supporters alike are sick of hearing about how badly their teams are doing. So, for their sake, we'll move on. Manchester United and Spurs, a 3-2 win for Manchester United. That puts them in 5th now, just a point behind Arsenal. But that's not our discussion in that game, because one of the two GOATs of this era has broken a quite extraordinary record.
The most career goals for club and country. I think it's competitive goals.
Yeah,
club and country. Yeah.
Mm.
Professional. It's quite remarkable that we're actually able to witness this in our lifetime. I think we'll touch on the GOAT debate and who we see. We'll quickly touch on that, but I feel like this just is another weapon in his arsenal when you talk about that debate. He's got the most professional competitive goals. Like, how do you get past that? And he's done it in multiple leagues.
As per FIFA records, I know there's a little bit of controversy in terms of the actual record itself, because I believe Pele actually has like more goals. I think he's got like over 1,000. But in terms of actually when records started and the actual FIFA record itself, this does break the record. 807 total career goals for Ronaldo.
Yeah, it's a huge achievement. Interested to know where you sit on the GOAT debate. I'll be honest. I was an out and out Messi fan, but I don't know, probably this last year, not just this, but what's transpired this year, it's kind of changed my mind.
I'll be honest. I don't know whether I've actually ever been able to answer the question before, because you have arguments for both sides. I think Messi is naturally the better footballer. It just seems that from the age of 10 or whenever it was when he was up by Barcelona Academy, that he was just destined to be the best footballer to walk the planet. Whereas Ronaldo, you can see, has put in all the hard yards and the serious work to make himself the best.
I'd agree with that too.
Yeah.
I think
for me,
that
that just makes the answer so much harder to give. Because yes, you're talking about two great goal scorers. Messi is probably a little better in terms of team player, I suppose, with his assists and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, it's so hard. I mean, we've seen Messi move PSG in the summer, so his run at Barcelona finally ended. But he just hasn't quite been able to pull the strings there. And I think anyone would have thought that he would have. I mean, it's called the Farmers League by supporters that aren't in that league for a reason. Whereas Ronaldo's done it at Real Madrid, he's done it at Juventus, and he's done it at Manchester United, both stints really. I think he's second in the race for the Golden Boot in the Premier League now. He's still like 8 or 9 behind Salah, but he's there. So yeah, there's no denying that maybe Ronaldo's got the proof in different leagues, but I don't know. It's too hard to put an answer to for me. I really can't pick one or the other.
Yeah, it depends what metric you look at it from. Do you look at it from, proven success in different leagues? Do you look at purely stats-wise, the numbers? I mean, in both those metrics, you give it to Ronaldo. The trophies, I'm not sure, but I would take a hazardous guess and say that
Messi's won
Messi
more
might
Ballon
be in
d'Ors.
front. Yeah.
I think
Individual trophies as well.
Yeah. I mean, club trophies, they're probably about par, to be honest.
Yeah. International, you've got
Messi
Messi with the
won a
Copa
Copa.
Americas.
Yeah.
So, Ronaldo won was it the Nations League? Was that Portugal?
Did they win the nation? I know they won the Euros.
Was it the Euros?
They've won the Euros.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if they won that Nations League as well,
Yeah,
or whether that
I'm
was.
not sure.
I think they did actually. I think they did because I believe it was Portugal and the Netherlands in the final.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure they did win. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can't remember for sure, but something in my head tells me that they did. But yeah, I mean, this is meant to be a quick debate. It's kind of spiraling out of control here, but like you said, it's hard to decide. Depends on which way you look at it, but I don't know. If I had to tip it, gun to my head, it's Ronaldo for me.
Okay. So you'd pick Ronaldo. No, that's cool. Good call. Interesting to see what the listeners at home are. I know there's definitely some Messi fans and there's definitely some Ronaldo fans, and if you're fans of one, you tend to not like the other when this discussion's had. So we'd be keen to see your thoughts in the comments. See how many Messi goats there are, and see how many Ronaldo goats there are. So it'd be an interesting read. So we want to touch just again on Chelsea's situation. We mentioned it either last week or a couple of weeks ago. But in the last few weeks, it's just spiraled and continued to spiral, and it's been an absolute roller coaster for Chelsea, the football club and fans. So just bear with me. Got a little bit of a timeline for you. Strap yourselves in. So on the 2nd of March, Roman Abramovich puts the club up for sale, $4 billion. No worries. I think he expects what is to come. So he's trying to get a quick sale and get out of there, basically. On the 10th of March, he is sanctioned by the UK government, freezing all of his assets, which means no sale of the club, no extra tickets can be sold, merchandise shop is closed, no signing or re-signing or selling of any players in the transfer window, basically no money coming into the club. And the government issued a special license so that fixtures could still be played, and the staff can continue to be paid, and existing ticket holders can attend games. That's all that can attend games. Sort of, in terms of away games, only the season ticket holders. No extra tickets sold. Basically, no money coming into the club, right? And Thomas Tuchel said that as long as they have a bus to get to games, they'll play the games. Fast forward 2 days.
They're going to go real Sunday league.
Yeah, correct. Fast forward 2 days, the government then freezes several of Chelsea's bank accounts and credit cards. So good luck getting to games on a bus with no fuel, is what I'm saying. And then on the same day, Roman Abramovich has reportedly given the green light for the sale of the club to go through despite the sanction. The sale can still go ahead, but no money from the sale will be benefited for Abramovich, basically. So he'll get the sale of the club will go through, and he'll get nothing for it, which is a bit odd, to be honest. He's missing out on $4 billion, but I mean, the guy's probably worth about 20, so it doesn't matter. But
at the same time, I think he probably wouldn't want to see what he's done crash and burn at the same time. I think it's sort of just he wouldn't want to be responsible for the deterioration of what's turned out to be quite a decorated club. So I could see that. Yeah, it has merit, but on the face of it, looks pretty weird. Yeah.
But it's I suppose to conclude, it's looking pretty scary for them because, I mean, he's pushing. If the reports are true that he has given the green light for the South to go ahead, what's to say he's not just going to accept any bid that sort of comes in, sort of get it done quicker, sooner rather than later. Will they get, the new owner, whoever it may be, will they put in time, the effort, the money that Abramovich has done into the club? Besides maybe some oil money.
I think they'll be hard pressed to find someone that's going to invest in the club like Abramovich did. He turned that club from a nothing club to one of the glamour clubs of the world. His money kicked off football's hyperinflation. We touched on that, and I think a couple of pods ago.
Yeah.
But he revolutionized the financial side of football. So I highly doubt we're going to find someone like that again. I listened to a bit of a video today on prospective buyers of the club. So I can't remember their names, but the owner of the New York Jets was interested.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
Owner of the LA Dodgers was interested as well. And there was another party I can't quite remember. Then
Conor
there's
McGregor's
Nick
throwing his
Candy as
name
well.
around.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think he was coming in with a bit of a lowball offer.
Yeah.
From what I heard. But I think the figure that's being thrown around at the moment is 2 to 2.5, somewhere in there. That's what I've heard. But I mean, it's a substantial hit considering what he turned down before this mess all happened. But yeah, like you said, he just wants to get out, or not get out, but for the good of the club and everyone concerned, the quicker he separates himself from this club, the quicker they can turn back around. And I mean, there's people's livelihoods here. I think he's got to look at that. He's holding everyone to ransom if he doesn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Quickly. So it's a bit of a dire situation. Petr Cech come out. There's the director saying it's a day-to-day basis there. There's no outlook for the club at the moment. It's kind of like how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? Forget contracts and transfers. Obviously, it's just how do we stay alive?
Yeah.
How do we meet obligations, and how do we get to next week's game? I don't know how a big team like Chelsea, it's almost unfathomable that it could come to this, but it has. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, we could be seeing the beginning of the downfall, which should be bad to see. I don't think. I mean, I won't speak for yourself, but I don't think anyone would want to see that happen. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how Chelsea have become one of the biggest teams in England, there's a reason why the Premier League is touted as the best league in the world. It's because there's so much competition in there, and Chelsea's right in there as the thick of it as one of the big six. So, if their club, faces a U-turn and their new owners don't back them financially, or players are forced to sort of leave because they're not getting contracts paid, or just whatever the case may be, and we see a huge decline in the club, that's not good for anyone, really. Not just Chelsea.
I completely agree with you that to lose Chelsea and everything that they stand for at this current time it'd be just to the detriment of the Premier League. No one wants to see that. Everyone wants to. I mean, you might be annoyed when your team loses to them and you think, hate Chelsea, you mouth off about them all until the next game of the round. Until next week's game. But no one wants to lose. You love the spectacle that the players that they bring in present. the starting guys like Havertz. They're bringing like guns of world football in, like, and it's just better for the league and the product that the league presents as a whole. So yeah, it's not what you want to see, not at all.
No, hopefully it'll get sorted soon enough for him. It doesn't seem to have affected their performances on the pitch too much. So, but again, we hope that continues to happen for them, and the sooner the club sells, the sooner they get someone new at the helm, the sooner it'll all settle down, I suppose, and then they can look at it again from another perspective. But it's interesting that you mentioned a few of those buyers being American owners of other baseball teams or whoever over there. It'd be just another American owner coming into English football. And out of all the Americans that own a club in England, there's not many that tend to back the club too financially. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there for sure.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't get the investment that Abramovich has poured into Chelsea. The Americans use it as more of it seems like more of a business opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Just going on past evidence, they tend to not be led by their heartstrings, but more their purse strings. Really, I think it's very money motivated and little to no emotional attachment to those clubs, which is, it's sad. And it's the one of the blokes I mentioned before, Nick Candy, he is a season ticket holder of Chelsea, and his name's being thrown around that he may be interested. I think he said he's interested, but there's no bid, no forthcoming bid as of yet. But I guarantee 98%, probably 95% of Chelsea supporters would like to see a guy with their best interests at heart at least take control of the club, and whether he looks for minority stakes to get money in, I think that's an avenue they can go down. But yeah, American ownership, I mean, say that as Liverpool fans under FSG rule, but it doesn't always work out that way. It doesn't work out the way FSG and Liverpool have done. So yeah, well, there's a lot to come, a lot to play out, and we'll see.
Definitely. You could all change by next week's episode, mate. We'll have to just wait and see.
That's it.
To round it off, I just want to touch on the Champions League real quick. We've mentioned, we've covered a little bit of Champions League on the pod. This is kind of in a slightly different context. I saw this on a Facebook post weeks ago, and I saved it, and it's only just come back to my attention. But it's the proposed new format of the Champions League for the 2024 season. It's still a couple years away, but this is just absolutely staggering to me as to why they all constantly want to change things. Probably a money grab, to be honest, from UEFA, because we're adding in more games. But for anyone who's not aware of it, I'll just run through it real quick. So typically there's 32 teams in a Champions League. That will increase to 36. Group stages, forget about it. It's now a league table, which just makes no sense. Each team plays 5 home and 5 away games, meaning that there's an extra 100 games than previous Champions League competitions. Top 8 teams qualify for knockouts automatically, and then 9th through to 24th play 2-legged ties to decide the remaining of the last 16. My mind is just blown. This to me sounds, now that I'm reading it back again, sounds a lot like the European Super League to me.
Yeah, this is it's trying to appease the teams that tried to enter the Super League, keeping them in line while also trying to change something that is clearly not broken. And I don't get it. It's a pure money grab. You're dead on the money there. I mean, it's 100 more games that they can sell tickets for. Obviously, you wait, the teams get a cut. UEFA gets a cut. Everyone stands to benefit in a financial manner, but the players definitely do not benefit. We've already talked about how calendars are already just forced in with games. They're just pumping games out. It seemed to be back in the day that 2 games a week was a big deal. And the way we're heading for 3. If we're pumping more games like that, something's got to give in the Premier League, whether that's a cup competition being dropped. I think that's the only way. But it's nothing but a money grab, and the players they're gonna pay for it eventually.
Yeah, like you said, there's already too many games for teams in general. I mean, I don't know, can't speak for like the German Bundesliga and the Serie A. I don't think they have 2 domestic cup competitions like England do. So in that sense, English teams in the Champions League are already playing extra games than those clubs. I know the Bundesliga also have a Christmas break, so they don't play over Christmas, whereas the Christmas period is probably the Premier League's most packed period in terms of games. So adding in even more games just makes no sense. And the only reason to put it down to is the money, like you said. So, and then I mean, I suppose moving into that at that stage as well, I believe the World Cup has now been moved. It's no longer in the June, July that it used to be. That's also moved now to the Christmas period. So leagues will actually stop. They'll go to the World Cup and resume afterwards. So I just don't know how they're going to fit all of these games in. We're talking about potentially a game on Saturday, Sundays, game on maybe a Monday, Tuesday. If you play Saturday, you play Monday, then you maybe play Thursday, and then you'll maybe play Saturday or Sunday again. And it's just too much. It's just too much for them.
I don't know what's got to change to make this happen. Whether obviously squad sizes have to be bigger, but then where does the money come from to grow their squads? I mean, obviously the big teams can afford to throw a little bit of money here and there, but the smaller teams trying to come up, how are they going to find the extra money that's needed to cope with extra fixtures? It just baffles me. I don't get it. I mean, why try and if it's not like, why are we trying to change it? It works. Everyone loves the Champions League. It's not like I haven't heard any calls saying, "Oh, it needs to be reformed. It's boring." I mean, everyone absolutely is hooked on it when it goes around. So, yeah, to me, it's a money grab. And another thing with this, I'm sure there's a plan for it, and not every phase of the competition is ironed out already. But like, how is it seeded? If you're playing 10 games, how is that? Is that drawn out of a pot? Is it?
Yeah.
In terms of, is the group stage done? It's just a very iffy concept to me. If you're playing 10 different teams, differing home and away, I struggle to see how that's fair. I mean, the 3 home and away games we've got, it's a great metric. The pot system, I think, is a great way to present an even deciding factor of these groups, and allows for groups of death, like we saw with Liverpool this year. You do see some pretty titanic games in the group stage even. And I mean, we've seen it in the first knockout round. Like whether the part of the motivation is to get bigger games earlier on in the competition, I think that may be a bit of a draw card. But it's not like we're not watching Augsburg versus Norwich. I always use Norwich. I don't know why I use it, but it's the first thing that comes to my head. But we're seeing good teams. That's why they're in the Champions League. Like they've either finished, for the smaller ones, they've finished at the top of that league, or in the bigger leagues, they've finished in the top 4 or top 3, or I'm not sure what the requirement is for each country. For the bigger ones, I know it's top 4, but there's a reason they're there. And yeah, completely unnecessary. I'll finish on that. It's just unnecessary.
Yeah, no, and I think the key word you mentioned there was fair. I feel like the group stage format can allow for maybe those underdog teams to make those great escapes, we'll call them, into the next round. Whereas I feel like this format, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like this format, you may as well just throw them straight out the door. It almost guarantees your top teams to go through. Like I said, we could be completely wrong, depending on the format and how they draw the games and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, adding in just more teams will only complicate things, and will only give those underdog sides less of a chance to progress, I feel.
Yeah. And it also dilutes the competition. I mean, you're making it less prestigious to get in there.
Yeah.
And I think that was the debate a lot of people thought with the World Cup, when they tried to expand the World Cup, was you're throwing in teams that probably don't belong in there just to get them in on their spectacle. And you've got more of these nothing games where it's going to be a 4-5 nil drubbing, or you've got 2 awful teams playing against each other. Yeah. I don't think anyone stands to benefit apart from broadcasters and sponsors, because they get their names out more often.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So, I mean, I suppose the positive is we've still got a couple more years until that comes into fruition, and it might change. Who knows?
We'll have to cherish it while it's here in its current format.
Yeah, we will. So anyway, we'll come back in 2 years' time from now, and we'll see how correct we were.
We'll book it down, note it down. We'll be back for that.
Certainly. On that note, mate, that's all we've got time for today. So thanks for joining us. Make sure to follow all the social medias and follow the channel. It'll all be in the description of the video. So staying up to date with all the videos, plenty of content coming out, both football and AFL and everything else basically. So stay tuned as always. We appreciate you for jumping on and giving it a listen. We'll see you all next time. Tyler, thanks a lot, mate. We'll see you next time.
Always a good time, mate. See you, mate.
Catch you later.